Genesis chapter 30. In this chapter, 43 verses were written. In 43 verses, there are two main parts. From the first verse to 24th verse is the first part. Jacob, his beloved wife Rachel, because she was barren, she could not be able to bear a children. Upon Jacob, it began with the anger. Rachel, handmaid, Bilhah gave as a wife to Jacob. To them, Dan and Naphtali, the two sons she bore to Jacob. Because Rachel gave Bilhah, Leah gave Silpah, her maid, her servant, to Jacob. Jacob had Gad and Asher by Silpah. After that, God, in the wonderful way, God remembered Leah. The reason is that when she came with the fruit of her first son, Reuben, Rachel asked her to give it to her. Because of that reason, Rachel gave her husband to her sister Leah for a while. By giving that way, Leah bore a son named Issachar, a son named Zebulun, and the daughter named Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel and blessed Joseph. Joseph was born in the Jacob's 91st year. This is the first part. Jacob family expanded. Offspring appears in this first 24 verses. Now when we look from 25th verse to 43rd verse, Laban's new contract with Jacob is visible. New work requirement. By the time the first 24 verses are completed, Jacob worked for 20 years in Laban's house. Jacob wanted to leave. He hopes to go to his father's house. Accordingly, when sharing this matter with Laban, Laban was unwilling to send him away. Therefore, Laban is coming to a new contract with Jacob. This is very clear to us from 25th verse. When we look until the end of the chapter, there are another 20 years Jacob worked for him outside the house of Laban. In that context, God blessed him to become very great. For the service that Jacob performed while living in Laban's house, for the first 7 years he obtained Leah. For the second 7 years he obtained Rachel. He obtained offspring for another 6 years. After that, for 20 years he was there outside the house to increase his property, the wealth. In those 20 years, Laban changed Jacob's salary 10 times because Jacob developed more than Laban. Every time God saw Jacob prosper, Laban made various kinds of agreements with him. Yet God blessed Jacob. It tells how much Jacob was blessed from 25th verse to 43rd verse. Jacob and Laban came to an agreement. After Laban set up a 3-day journey between them, that is to say, Jacob received an amazing way from God. He's saying that, what is he saying? He just conduct will be a witness to me. Today I have walked through all of your flock, and I have seen that every sheep that is speckled and spotted, and all the black one among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, I will establish. And these shall be my wages. So righteousness will answer for me in the time to come, when the subject of my wages comes before you. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the lambs, will be considered stolen, if it is with me. And Laban said, Oh, that is well according to your word. So he removed that day the male goats that were speckled and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, everyone that had come white in it, and all the brown ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hands of his son. Then he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Then we look from verse 37, the flocks are in a heat time. Jacob, who was taught by God, gathered them into flocks. When the flock came to drink water, he peeled the barks of the jungly tree here and there, so that the streaks of white appeared in the twigs. Then he put them in front of them, and they conceived in that way and produced strong ones with spots and streaks. But he did not put them when the weak ones come. In that way all the strong ones came to Jacob. I am going to say this. All the weak ones got pregnant and went to Laban and his sons. Thus Jacob required strong sheep and goats and foals for himself. He became very rich. This is a description given in the 30th chapter. And from the first verse, I will read and explain. The first verse. Now when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. This is a big problem with Rachel. Her sister Leah had 4 sons. When she saw that, Rachel became envious. God is the author of offspring. It is not good for those who have children to envy those who do not. It is better to correct themselves in the presence of God and pray to God than to be jealous. By the time she realized this, it took Rachel a long time. Rachel is quarreling with Jacob. Give me the fruit of the womb, or else I will die. She threatens him. What can Jacob do? The fruit of the womb is a reward from the Lord. In the Bible, we find 64 verses on the womb as an example. It is said that God shapes a form in the womb of the child. Scripture says that He is the one who closes the womb and He is the one who opens the womb. So, I'm resisting God to give the fruit of the womb. Jacob is ragging on her, gives offspring without relying on God. Rachel is quarreling with her husband to give her children. Her sister is having children. Why isn't she? She is arguing with her husband. Jacob's anger flared up against Rachel. Am I in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? Jacob is expressing the idea that only God can give the fruit of the womb to Rachel. Dear brother and sister, if any one of you lack the fruit of the womb, observe the ways in the Bible. Rebecca is like a mess. Isaac prayed. Samuel mother Hannah was barren. She went to the temple of Shiloh and prayed with a great anguish. God accepted her prayer, her plea, her woe. She is barren. Till the time of promise came to her, she remained barren. In the New Testament, in the Gospel of Luke, Elizabeth, the wife of Zechariah, she remained barren. There were Levites. She who was barren had to wait for the birth of John the Baptist. Giving offspring is a work of God, it's a reward of God. God does according to His plan. And He is the one who gives birth to people. He is the one who gets it. He is also one who gives life. So only He can give offspring. Jacob told Rachel by rebuking her that there was nothing in Jacob's hands. During the marriage, it is that tradition of Syria to give the maidservant to his daughter as a gift, a dowry. And additionally, that is why Laban of Syria gave Bilhah a maid woman as a wealth, where when he gave Rachel to Jacob. That's why Rachel says, because I am not conceiving with my maid Bilhah, you should lie with her, and from her you should provide me offspring. She is saying that in Genesis, the same thing in Genesis chapter 16. This woman also adapts the same method that Sarah adapted. When Sarah saw that she could not have children, we see that Hagar, who was an Egyptian maid, was given to Abraham, and Ishmael was taken as a son. Here also she is taking in the same way. My maid Bilhah is there, go with her. She bears children for me. She said that in that way children will be born to me through her. The offspring of the female servant goes into the control of the mistress. Moreover, the husband of the female servant given in this way, a female servant given as a dowry, has no authority over her. Only she has authority which is in the law, in the tradition. Then she gave him Bilhah, her maid, as wife, and Jacob went into her, and Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, God has judged my case, and he has also heard my voice and given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. Dan means judging. It means to judge. When she had a second son, Rachel named him Naphtali. Her maid Bilhah gave birth to 2 sons, and she was delighted. Naphtali means wrestling. Look at Rachel's word. When she named Naphtali, Rachel's maid Bilhah again became pregnant, and Rachel made Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, with a great wrestling, I have wrestled with my sister, and indeed I have prevailed. So she called his name Naphtali. Even through the maid, she felt that she had conceived a child. She is fighting with her sister, a fertile fight. This is a fertile fight, isn't it? What is fighting with the sister? It would have been better to fight with God. It would have been better to struggle with God. Nowhere Rachel struggled with God, even till her last point of time. It is not seen. Look, in the 9th verse, Leah saw that she had ceased to bear, and she also bore 4 sons. Then she gave a maidservant Zilpah as a wife to Jacob, because her sister Rachel had 2 sons through Bilhah. She also desiring to have sons through her maidservant also, and had 2 sons. When Jacob went with them, Gad and Asher were born. See, these words from verse 9 to 13, it is explained. Leah's maidservant Zilpah bore a son to Jacob, and Leah, looking at her 5th son, said, what luck! And she named him Gad. Gad means excitement, it's luck. And Leah made Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, I am happy, for the daughters will call me blessed. So she called his name Asher. Asher means happy. It's a blessed one. See, out of Jacob's 12 sons, there are 6. There are 8 in total. We can understand that they come only through Leah. When we see in verse 14, now Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. It's a fruit, mandrakes, which makes fertility better. So if you eat that fruit, they believe that they can bear a child. In those days, people have that beliefs that if they eat that fruit, they can have the children. They can have the fruit of the womb. But God gives. Children are not born from eating fruit. It is known to all of us that different types of fruits have been there, different types of qualities. Even now, science and medical science says that some types of fruits helps the body in some ways. So they say that the particular fruit develops this fertility. When my father gets cancer, if they say that the kind of fruit available in Kerala, we booked it online because it seems that eating that fruit can bear a lot of relief from prostate cancer. Therefore, we try to get that fruit for my father. Each fruit has a unique quality. When it is hot, we drink coconut. A gastric problem for easy digestion, doctor suggests some type of vegetables for the problem. So in this way, mandrakes fruit were considered to be useful for the pregnancy. But this does not bear fruit in the womb the Lord gives. Then while speaking to her sister Leah, Rachel asked her to give her some of the mandrake's fruit for her son. Her desire is to have children somehow. She is trying for that. Even now, couples without children try in many ways. They also turn to many kinds of spiritual programs. Some people also appear to be following these foolish principles. They do a lot of activities with the illusion that they will benefit. They keep going around doctors. Here Rachel also pleads with Leah to give the fruits of a giver of her sons for her and cooperate. Leah is very intelligent. Leah asked Rachel, "You took my husband, and now are you asking for the fruits brought by my son?" To that Rachel said, "If you give me fruits of the giver of sons that your sons has brought, you give me your husband for a while in return." So Leah, the giver of the sons tree, the fruit, and gave the fruit to Rachel, and got Jacob to stay with her for some time. So Jacob slept with Leah that night. God heard Leah's prayer. So she conceived again and bore Jacob a fifth son. Note, where Gad and Asher, who were born through Silpah, not born to her personally, yet she still prays. What's strange is that here the Lord hears a plea. Why did he write specifically that he heard her plea? When we see that he wrote it specifically, even though she had given birth to 4 sons, her childbirth ceased. Menopause has stopped. It is strange for a woman to have her period again after menopause has stopped. That's why God heard Leah's prayer and she became pregnant. God made a miracle in her body. God performed a miracle in her body, Leah's body. Therefore, she became pregnant again and gave birth to Issachar, her 5th son. As the word reminds us, Issachar, my hair, means I got Jacob on rent. I bought it. Because the giver of the son gave the fruit and brought it, she named it Issachar, which means high. Then in the 19th verse, Leah became pregnant again, and when she gave birth to her 6th son, Leah says, God has given me a good gift, Zebulun. The word Zebulun has the meaning of dwelling. God has given me as the ability. My husband dwells with me. He is dwelling with me. God has opened her womb again. We see her rejoicing, saying, God has taken away my reproach. Then she gave birth to another daughter and named her Dinah. See, 6 sons and a daughter: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, and Dinah. These 7 were born to Leah. When you come to the 12th verse, take a moment to consider the lineage of Jacob. Leah had 7 children. Leah's maid Zilpah had 2 children, Gad and Asher. Besides them, Bilhah, who was Rachel's maid, had 2 children, Dan and Naphtali. In all, they had 7, and 4 of them were 11, including 1 girl. Then 2 sons were Joseph, and he obtained through his beloved wife Rachel. In verse 22, God remembered Rachel, heard her plea, and opened her womb for personal prayer. Her personal prayers. God heard her personal prayer. He opened her womb. Every woman should pray in the presence of God for the children. Every man should pray in the presence of God for his wife to have children. God heard Rachel's prayer. He opened her womb. God heard Isaac's prayer. He opened his wife's womb. Likewise, God heard Hannah's prayer. He opened her womb. God heard Elizabeth Zachariah's prayer, and he opened the womb. Therefore, prayer in the presence of God, it appears to us as a great weapon that God has given to the children. God remembered Rachel and heard her prayer. He opened her womb. Then she conceived and gave birth to a son and thought, God has taken away my reproach. God has removed my blame, she thought. What is the blame? The blame of being barren has been removed from me. Now, with the feeling that I am blessed as a mother of a son, she named him Joseph. Joseph means adding, because he will give me another son. God will not stop with him. He will give another son after this. He will add another to me. With a feeling that the meaning of adding comes, which means to be added, and she kept the name Joseph because hoped that she would have another son. And now, before the birth of Benjamin, the 12 sons, some history happened between that. After Joseph was born, a history happened between the birth of Benjamin. It took a period of 20 years. Once you remember, in the 70th year, Jacob set out for Padan Aram. He set out to Haran from, he set out on the order of his parents. After he came to Padan Aram, 7 years, and another 7 years, and another 6 years, that is even up to 90 years, 19 years, Jacob stayed there at Laban, and got his 2 wives and sons. In the 91st year, Jacob bore, Joseph. After Joseph was born, between the birth of Benjamin, Jacob lived 20 years in the fields outside Laban's house. The special features of Genesis chapter 30, 80th verse and 41st verse tells us, once I have been with you for these 20 years, it appears the second time that I was in your house for 20 years. Secondly, after Joseph was born, before Benjamin was born, in the meantime, Laban changed Jacob's wages 10 times. But Jacob was blessed. He became stronger than Laban. As we see in the chapter 30, verse 25, and Laban coming with the new agreement with Jacob. Jacob's agreement with Laban. Jacob is going for a new contract with Laban that is known to us in the conversation that took place from verse 20. Jacob hoped to go to his father's house after the birth of Joseph because his parents, Isaac and Rebekah, wanted get one of the Laban's daughter and bring her. The father said, so it got delayed because of a few, thing that happened. Why it was delayed due to the circumstances. It had been almost 20 years. He thought of saying, let's go, thinking of it. He's talking to Laban. After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, send me away. I will go to my place, to my country. Hand over my wives, my children to me. Then I will go. I have served you for them. He says that you know how I served you. To that Laban replied, if your favor is upon me, listen to my words. Because of you, Jehovah has blessed me. I learned it. He said, please note. He said, give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go. And for you know my service which I have done for you. For that Laban said to him, please stay, if I have found favor in your eyes, for I have learned by experience that the Lord has blessed me for your sake. Profit were greatly increased in 20 years. What? That means without any kind of salary, he only did a free service full of sacrifice for 2 wives and children. That's why Laban was greatly blessed. He found out by looking at this diagram, he found out by seeing the, Jacob, to seeing him with him, he's pleading that with Jacob that if your grace is upon me, please stay with me for some time. He is begging. Then speaking to Jacob, he said, tell me clearly what your salary is. I will give that. Tell me about your, wages. I will give it. He says, and Jacob said to him, you know how I have served you, and how your flocks have been with me. For what you had before I came was little, but it has increased greatly, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I went. When shall I provide for my own house too? He asked. Every man should think about this. Every man should also have the thought of earning for his family and the thought of working hard for the needs of his family. Jacob is asking Laban the same thing. Now I am not a carpenter. Now I have a children. So should I earn for these children? They have to grow up. They have to become adults. They should eat. Already 11 sons, 1 daughter, 4 wives. It means 2 wives and 2 maidservants. And so to support so many people, to support so many workers, I have to earn. So since God has blessed you, wherever I have stepped, I have to earn more. Then he says, that is the prophet. I was asking you what to give. So Jacob says, you should not give me anything. You should not pay me any salary. He's asking for partnership. He's not asking for salary. He's asking for partnership. You don't have to give me anything. It is enough if you do this for me. I will feed your flocks again and guard it. I will graze your flock. I will guard your flock. He's talking about new contract. There's all students reading the Bible should carefully note. It has been 20 years by the time he conceived Joseph. Because in the first 6 years, we see the lineage of 10 sons excluding Joseph. Joseph was born very late. We need to understand this. So if you look at the verse 32 of the chapter, Jacob is asking Laban for three different things. What is he asking for? I'll walk through your flock today and I will look. I want a sheep with the spots. He's telling, let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the brown ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages. So my righteousness will answer for me in the time to come. When the subject of my wages comes before you, everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats and brown among the lambs will be considered stolen if it is with me. Therefore, in how many ways can we put a physical mark? For easy identification is said, for separating what is yours and what is mine. For easy identification, let us keep it this way from now on. If you come to see about my salary, then my righteousness conduct will be witness to me. This righteous conduct will be a witness to me, so that your children will never say in the future that I stole from you. And Laban said, oh, that is where according to your word. Let it be as you say, because Laban had no choice. Because Jacob says he is leaving, Laban knew that he had been blessed because of Jacob. That's why Laban, want to keep Jacob there. I don't like to go inside. When we observe Laban, he has a lot of business tactics. I know God is blessing through his son-in-law, so why would he leave or abandon me? Therefore, in some way, he is asking God to bless him by giving him a salary of prophet, or by giving him something and keeping him. Laban's desire for material prosperity are most evident. In 5th verse, on that day, 35th verse, so he removed that day the male goats that were speckled and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, everyone that had some white in it, and all the brown ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hands of his sons. Then he put a 3 days journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of the Laban's flocks. Jacob has a plan to take a possession of everything that was born with the marks, he said. And God gave it to him, in a vision. God gave it to him in a vision. What kind of vision? If you see that in what way he can get the strong ones, and God revealed it to him. If you see from verse 37th verse, now Jacob took for himself rods of green purples and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And the rods which he had pleaded, he set before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs, where the flock come to drink, so that they should conceive when they come to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth, striped and speckled and spotted. Then Jacob separated the lambs and made the flock face towards a streak, and all the brown in the flock of Laban, but he puts his own flocks by themselves and did not put them with the Laban's flock. That is the kind of kids that Jacob desired. The sheep and lambs and goats gave birth to those kinds. The flocks gave birth to lambs of different colors, stripes spotted in front of the road. Jacob separated the lambs and turned the face of the flocks towards the stripped one and black ones in the Laban's flock, and kept his flocks separate from Laban's flocks. Whenever the strongest one in the flock were in the heat, Jacob put the rods in the channels in front of the eyes of the flock, so that they would conceive in front of the rods. When the strong ones were conceiving, he put the rods of poplar and almond trees, but he did not put them when the weak ones were conceiving. Thus all the weak ones were conceiving like belonging to Laban. Jacob desired the bold, strong ones in that way. Firstly, this man developed immersively. It came to pass, whenever the strong livestock conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the livestock in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were feeble, he did not put them in. So feebler were Laban's and the stronger Jacob's. Thus the man became exceedingly prosperous, and had large flocks, female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. In this way, Jacob maintained a trade practice, a trade secret, and he comes up with that even now. Every business, there is a trade secret principle. No one reveals that secret. Nobody will release the formula. If they release like that, others will also duplicate it. That's why they keep the trade secret to themselves. Similarly, here also a trade secret. He understood and followed it, and he developed a lot. The Bible also wonderfully explains about the business techniques. The techniques given to him by God worked, and he became great. He gradually developed and extremely developed. This is, we are looking at this account of this 30th chapter. Let's finish this 30th chapter. Let's conclude here.